evening.
Welcome to the second episode of Tenon Talks. I am Brigadier Rajan Oberoi, the Global CEO for the Tenon Group of Companies. Before I start, I would like to provide you with an overview of the Tenon Talks. We realize that the industry dynamics are changing due to the global crisis that is upon us, and it is high time that we adapt and come up with innovative ways to address this change. With an aim to understand the new norms and end user expectation, we started Tenon Talks webinar series, wherein we invite industry leaders from across industries to build a meaningful dialogue amongst the subject matter experts in facility management and security industry. Today's webinar is focused on understanding the role of technology and manpower in creating safer workplaces. With the recent impact of the pandemic, there has been a shift in how the world used to work. The onus is on the industry to explore additional ways to go beyond the traditional model of service delivery to offer more efficient and agile workplace solutions. At Tenon, we foresaw the need to offer technology-driven workplace safety and security solutions to adapt to the change. As one of the early adopters, we started offering touchless safety solutions to Soteria, like attendance management, visitor management, thermal sensor cameras, and real-time analytics to our clients. However, we realized that it might as well be prudent to understand the need of the end user and adopt solutions to fit the industries at large. Is technology a threat to manpower, especially now in times of COVID-19? Can technology and manpower collaborate to provide our employees with safer workplaces? Will the combination of both help us maximize the return on investment and bring in operational efficiency? We look forward to having more such questions addressed by our expert panel today. I look forward to a meaningful and informed discussion. For this, I'd like to introduce today's moderator, Dr. Anurag Batra, the Chairman and Editor-in-Chief of BW Business World. Dr. Batra, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much for that beautiful start of the webinar. And I welcome you on behalf of the Tenon group and to the second edition of the Tenon Talks. These are e-discussions on emerging integrated facility management ideas. This is in association with BW Security World. It's our youngest community that we've launched recently at Business World. We're delighted to have a panel that is representative of the stakeholders of this ecosystem. Let me first share with you who the panelists are. Most of you know who they are, and that's why you joined. But let me first introduce Lieutenant Colonel Himani Thapliyal, who's the Chief Security Officer of Vedanta. Welcome, Lieutenant Colonel Thapliyal. You could unmute yourself and say hello.
Hi.
We also have Mr. Naveen Upadhyay, who's the Senior VP Procurement and Space Management at the Kotak Mahindra Bank. Welcome, Mr. Upadhyay. We also have
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. We also have Mr. Narayan Kurup, who's the Director SA for Corporate Security at Deutsche Bank. Welcome, Mr. Kurup. We also have Mr. Arpit Rajayan, who's the Founder, Partner, and Vice President at India Bound. Welcome, Mr. Rajayan.
Yeah,
Shall I call you Arpit? Because otherwise I'll get confused.
Certainly.
Well, I'll call you Mr. Rajayan. And last but not the least, and the youngest on the panel, is Mr. Anuj Rajayan, who's the CEO of Soteria. So we have a mix of thought leaders, practitioners, as well as all the stakeholders. At the end of the day, the users are very important. First of all, let me start by saying that today we are discussing technology versus manpower. What is the perfect balance and what are the trends going forward? Let me start by asking Mr. Anuj Rajayan, how has COVID-19 changed the current scenario, technology versus manpower? And you have 4 minutes, and I'd request everyone to keep your time. Mr. Rajayan.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me on such an esteemed panel. I'm the youngest one in the entire panel here, and the least amount of experience. But I'll give my 2 cents on technology. So first of all, I would like to bring it to attention that one thing that we think of when we say technology is something like movie Terminator or Minority Report, where we feel technology can be good or bad. In reality, technology is just a tool or a medium for us to make our lives more efficient. And that's what we've been trying to do as a society during the time of COVID as well. Now coming to the point, COVID took, I think, the entire world by a surprise. No government or no authority was equipped to handle the challenges that it brought. And one of the biggest challenge was manpower. So the more people you have outside, the more difficult it is to curtail or control this pandemic. So one thing that has instigated or become a catalyst during this time is COVID trying to push for technology adoption in the industries. Not specifically security or facility management, but each and every industry has gone through its own set of development or evolvement in terms of having technology becoming a part of their infrastructure, their SOPs or the BCP. And it's not something that has become a substitute for a manpower, but a complementer. Technology cannot handle everything on its own, and a human intervention, which has to be reduced during this time, cannot run everything on its own in the current scenario. So we've tried to understand that there's a more, there has to be an equal balance between how much of technology one can take place, that one can adopt, and the kind of manpower that can complement the technology that can be doing those jobs. As the paramount part is ensuring that the human interaction is low. So something like a contactless security or contactless operations is something that is developing these days. Technology, it's not just CCTV cameras or sensors anymore. It is something that is ensuring that your SOPs are evolved to a level where there are lesser contact points for an employee who comes to work in their office, or a consumer that goes to a mall. And it complements the existing setup to ensure that there is an adequate terms of precautions taken by the management to ensure that we are able to curtail the COVID scenario and still continue with the new normal that we have. I'm currently in Singapore, and interestingly here, life has come back to normal. People are going out, all the malls are open, restaurants are open, even amusement parks are open. And the best way they're able to curtail is to, one, increase the amount of manpower that has to monitor things like social distancing, things like temperature check, things like sanitization. And they've complemented it with technology to ensure that there is adequate check or balance in terms of people going out. Are they wearing their masks? Are they doing the social distancing that should be done to ensure that there is not the kind of spread that there should be?
Thank you so much, Anuj, for your introductory comments and giving us a ray of hope, both on employment. Imagine if we followed Singapore, the number of people that we need to employ in India would provide employment to a lot of people, and technology absorption would make the jobs of human beings better. Ms. Thapliyal, at this point, let me bring you in. Technology is supposed to make the role of a professional who's a human being better, not take over his or her job. Now, manpower is becoming more important when it is combined with technology, and the right technology. It leads to increase in efficiency, and it has the potential to solve all the issues that we have, and also get more value from the manpower, from the professional, from the setup that you have. What are your opening comments?
Yeah. So thank you, Anurag. Actually, I totally agree what Brigadier Oberoi also mentioned, and that Anuj also, that it's not the substitute. It is a complementary thing. So I totally believe that manpower to be clubbed with the right set of technology solutions to achieve more out of less is the success mantra for any technology product. So manpower, when clubbed with the right technology, can help us achieve better and faster ROIs. There is no doubt, which is the need of the hour also. Even the most effective technology solutions do require some level of human intervention. Like routine or perfectionary decisions can be made, using AI, what we are in our day-to-day life also we are seeing. But to act on that big data analysis, I think the human intelligence is required. It is inevitable, in fact. So I think it is never technology versus manpower, but it is the fit for purpose technology with manpower. So humans are premium and must be used for more critical and decision-making roles. AI can help us to hear the signal from the noise. It can take on all mundane, dangerous jobs, which will not only help the manpower to deliver on more intelligent aspects of it, but it also ensures that no important signal is missed out. And at the same time, the decision making is not on personality based. It is more of logic based when it is through the AI and the logics when it is coming. So not only does this help boost a company's bottom line with cost savings on liability, especially if the people, like if I talk about my industry, wherein we are into the security. So these are the dangerous jobs wherein something can happen to the person. So it definitely helps to cut out those costs, additional costs. It also adds significant human capital to the company by offering experienced and skilled workers to deliver more meaningful contributions towards the overall objective of the organization. So for me, yes, it is the the clubbing of technology, right set of technology and the manpower. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. I would also request all the participants who joined this knowledge session and look at the quality of the panelists and look at the quality of inputs coming in to take the survey, to take the poll. I would encourage them because it gives us a sense of what you're feeling and what the situation on the ground. At the end of the data is God these days. At this point, let me bring in Mr. Narayan Kurup. How receptive is the market towards technology? Do we have infrastructure to support the right technology implementation? And are companies willing to invest more in technology?
Thanks for your question, sir. I hope I'm audible to everyone.
You're absolutely audible in this.
And good evening to everyone. So we look at it slightly differently in the bank. So as security professionals, my question to the forum would be, have your threat vectors and your threat actors changed? Whether it was COVID or it was not COVID. And conventionally, if you look at physical security, and I'm right now restricting my conversation around physical security, I'll take it to information security as well. If you look at physical security, the risks of physical security are generally associated with broadly your premises, your assets and life. So at a very fundamental level, nothing has changed for you. And in the practice of prevention or protection of these three things that I was talking about, if you can introduce technology to make your life easier, then I would say yes, it would make a meaningful discussion. So we look at it firstly from a risk perspective. What has changed on the risk perimeter, right? So as I work for banks, and I've been working for banks for the last 13 years, I don't see the major risk changing because the major parameters have still not changed. Now, if real estate was to say that, or if information technology was to say that, or if the business leadership was to say that, yes, out of the 100 people who work in my company, I can easily make 50 people work from home, yes, my goalposts will change. And that may lead to rationalization of guarding, possibly more integrated technology at the space, So initially when COVID started, there was a huge buzz in the industry that, oh, once this gets over, there'll only be, few people. And we had Wipro making a statement that they will have more than 75% of their people working from home, and then Accenture came out and stuff. But as the days are progressing, people are coming to realize that there is a big elephant in the room called as wellness. So Gartner statistics clearly show marital discords that have gone up during the pandemic because people working from home. The number of medical cases for individuals, look at me, I'm sitting on a chair that is not ergonomically or medically certified for long hours of sitting, right? So the elephant is still in the room. The pandemic will go away, but these things will stay with these bunch of workers who work from home for so long. Now, coming to your question on adoption of technology, my simple 2 points on that is that firstly, it is a derivative of the risk that we foresee. For me, the risks have not changed much. The ways of operating have changed, but the risks have not changed. Yes, if we are talking about technologies like AI and bringing in bots to do repetitive work, that could have happened much before COVID came in, right? It's now only accelerated our thinking in that direction because we are now seeing that, you know, there's a requirement for it. Otherwise, it is just the same. And my last point around your question, sir, is that yes, technology is required. It is the call of the hour, basically, because it helps you to work more efficiently, and you know, it gives you the desired output all the time. Whereas when the human factor is there, there's always a problem. So fully in favor of technology, but as of now, I don't see the requirement to do a drastic shift into technology and, you know, cull the manpower and, you know, work that way. So those are my comments on your
The
question.
only question you haven't answered is, are organizations willing to invest in technology
Big
right
time.
up front to get benefits, maybe a little in the short term and long term?
Big time.
Big time.
So and like I said, so I'll just repeat it again. For us in banking, because the actors and the vectors, the threat actors and the vectors are not changed drastically. Yes, on the information security side, they've drastically changed. So
Of course.
Indo-China standoff, state-sponsored activism, a whole bunch.
People working from home, having official data at the home.
Correct.
You know,
And
so on
you
and
know,
so forth.
their computers not, you know, having the antiviruses that are required, and they're logging in through an iron key, but still that risk remains. So I'll not speak about the information security side, but on the physical security side, technology was always the way forward, and companies have always been investing. If you ask me in the current position and what I'm seeing in the banking industry, there's a little bit more, a marginal increment in technology, but there is still a huge dependency on manpower because of the way we are constructed and the way we look at our risks in this job. So that's my response.
Thank you so much. And Anuj, just to connect what Mr. Kurup said and what you said, what is the value created by technology related and technology enabled solutions? And do you think it overpowers the value creation that a human professional does?
Well, having experienced both the manpower piece as well as the technology piece, if you take my honest opinion, I would say that a technology will never overpower manpower. It's the human who builds up the technology, not the vice versa. But yes, technology does play a key role in assisting us in doing tasks that more efficiently and more effectively. So the difference I would say here is that technology adoption rate, like groups have said, has increased. India per se, or if you talk about Southeast Asia per se, we as it is were on the right trajectory in terms of technology adoption, including of new technology to make our lives easier. COVID has just been that catalyst or that accelerator to ensure that our pace increases, because now we need to curtail this animal, and the only way we feel that would be safer is to adopt technology, to gain data from that technology and to act upon it.
And also possibly preempt. Data can help you preempt. It can. Mr. Kurup, I did ask you this, but let me ask you this again. You know, the banking industry deals with data of its customers, which you have a fiduciary responsibility to safeguard. Now, considering the privacy issues and the data protection issues, what is the kind of checklist you have for onboarding any technology solution?
So if I was to speak to Anuj right now and tell him to give me the Soteria solution in Deutsche Bank, just for him to onboard the application would take him anywhere between 9 months to 11 months. And if his application was to work on my standard built environment, that would be the time frame. But if he was to run independently, it would never happen. The reason for that is that, first of all, we are a European bank and we are governed not only by the Data Protection Act that is in India, but we are also governed by another draconian act called as the GDPR, which is prevalent in the EU. Now, if you read both these acts in conjunction, any data that is personal in nature has to be protected. And if I'm unable to do so, the liabilities are horrendous, not only for the directors, but for the company as well. So technology adoption also comes with a whole set of challenges, because when you try and integrate it into a standard built environment, the upstreams, downstreams, and the interfaces are so complicated nowadays that it gets challenging, right? So that is my comment.
Thank you so much. Mr. Upadhyay, let me bring you into the conversation at this point. According to an article published in the Time magazine recently, technological acceleration, and dare I say COVID has acted like a chief digital officer or a chief digital transformation officer, is more likely to take over human jobs than COVID-19 recession. What are your views on reduction of manpower versus removal of manpower? And how do we strike this balance between technology and human beings? Mr. Upadhyay?
Yes. I think I agree that technological acceleration has been too much, especially if you look in the last 2 decades. What used to take several days, for example, opening an account, is now happening at the click of a button. And that's what customer wants, speed and accuracy. Now with COVID-19, what is happening is not that it is changing the dynamics of the game. It is just acting as a catalyst for ever increasing use of technology, which is already there in banks or any other industry. And all the organizations, they are trying to catch up with technology. Now, when we say technology, there are several drivers for it, why we do it. One, we say it provides better control, because with technology, you can enforce your processes and policies in a very structured way. Number two, it gives you a good experience. Today, you have a lot of apps available. You can mark your attendance on the go. You can book your hot desking seats in the office on the go. Take an example of any hotel. You go to a hotel, you have a QR code kept there. You don't have to ask for a physical menu. You scan the QR code, you have the menu on your phone. You simply order for it. So it is giving you a lot of experience. Plus, it is giving you a lot of efficiency. And ultimately, there is a commercial angle to it. You also look at the saving part of it. Now, under current circumstances, mobility is the key. People are operating from home, as many of my co-panelists said. To provide the platform for people to operate optimally from home, you also need a lot of technology. You need VPN, you need VDI, you need to have the right kind of mobility in the form of laptops. Looking at the security vertical, especially in the last few years, you'll find that there is a increased usage of e-surveillance. What we used to have, for example, in an ATM, guards in 3 shifts, has slowly been changed with adoption of technology through e-surveillance. And maybe instead of 3 shifts having guard in 3 shifts, we are moving to a model wherein either you are having it in 2 or maybe in 1 shift. So what is happening is technology is helping you in multiple ways. And security especially has moved away from being only manpower intensive vertical to manpower plus technology vertical. Let us look at another example. For example, earlier you had to consolidate MIS, you had to have expense trend, or you needed to have provisioning. Now you have intelligent systems in place. What used to take multiple manpowers, multiple man hours is happening at the click of the button. robotics is there in place. So it is helping you move things faster as compared to what you used to have. Now, what happens with a thing like COVID is it helps you realize the possibilities which can happen. While many companies, when pre-COVID, they were already operating with hot desking model. But after COVID, a lot of companies realized that yes, with the right people and right technology, work can continue from home also. And with this, what happens is organizations, they start warming up to the idea of having more technology in place, providing that comfort to the employees, and ease of adoption and ease of making the change becomes easy with such events like COVID-19. Now, with such demand and acceptance of technology at an organization level, what is also happening is there are multiple players who are coming up with innovative solutions. People are coming up with solutions like rostering, with solution with an app which can do contact tracing, and there are multiple solutions. So for example, self-declaration applications, online screening of your employees in case you want it. So there are multiple things which is really helping, and organizations are looking forward to it. But when we say technology, we need to also keep in mind 3 or 4 factors before we really adopt it. One is the kind of industry you belong to and the kind of regulations which apply. Number 2, you need to have a look at the data security part of it. Number 3, with the change of technology at the organizational level, will it impact customer experience? For example, in banking, if I'm changing something, is it going to impact my customers? And the most important part of it, how about the wellness of the employees?
Sure.
So what I feel is, if there is a solution which takes care of all of these issues, then yes, technology will be there, adoption will happen, but ultimately technology is just a tool and a platform. It will be used by manpower. So I believe that there will be an optimum level wherein there will be a balance between technology and manpower, which will coexist. It will happen. So changes in technology will continue to happen, but it will be always driven by the manpower. So that's my view on this.
Thank you, Naveen. And dare I say, just to build on what you have said, I believe we are in a 3C economy. We are in a 3C world. The 3 C's are collaborative. So I would say there needs to be also a collaboration between humans and technology in a deeper way than it is. Second is compassionate. Both you and Mr. Kurup have talked about the fact that you need to look at the well-being of the employees and all the colleagues that are part of the ecosystem. And third is contactless. Anuj talked about how contactless economy is giving rise to new solutions. And you're right. Last night I had a family occasion. I went for the first time in 5 months with my family to have a dinner in a hotel. We were scanned thrice. We had through a scanner, we were able to play, get the menu, place it, so on and so forth. So what you are saying is actually starting to happen. It is not just something we're discussing on a webinar. At this point, let me bring in Ms. Thapliyal back again. Before I do that, let me, Arpit, Mr. Rajayan, let me ask you, what according to you are the risks associated with replacing manpower by technology? I'm sure there are always trade-offs. When you choose something over other, there's always a trade-off. So what do you think, Mr. Rajayan, are the risks associated with too much technology and less manpower?
Sure. Thank you, Anurag, and I appreciate the time. I hope I'm loud and clear.
You are, but you can be a little bit more, if you can.
Sure. Let me get this mic up here.
Yes.
So a couple of months ago, we actually ran a survey, and it's no better way to gauge where the industry is, what industry people are thinking. And we ran it at 2 levels. One was the CSO, CRO levels, and the other was the CEO levels. I wish we had wider population to run that and check the associate or the employee population reviews. But I'll give you some insights. Happy to share those. At the CEO, CSO level, where the vast populations were asked to move. I mean, there was very little time, but very efficiently, lots of companies quickly went into the work from home and right there. And we're talking March, April, by which time a lot of this had not matured to the same level as we see it now. There were hiccups, there were employee experience issues, and so on. But at the CSO, CRO, even the ISO person, that band which really governs the control functions in a company, they were looking at the matters not spilling so much. Yes, there were always VPN issues. Naveen was mentioning about that. The bandwidth, what they were catered for, how many can simultaneously connect, the engagement thereof, the bandwidth, the remote working, the speed at home not being the same as the speed at office. And all of that experience became somewhat difficult until, and then this whole thing about enabling, and companies started to pay off, 15,000 rupees or 20,000 or whatever the amounts have been to enable employees to work from home and go buy, if you want to buy a chair, go buy it. If you want to buy a table, enhance your bandwidth speed and so on. Now, with that, the governance of it became even more important. It was just mentioned about technology that started to come in, but also remembering the governance of it from remote locations is not the same as governance of it from the office. Narayan was mentioning about GDPR. I'll also add HIPAA, and I'll also add the UK Anti-Bribery Act and the combinations thereof, because now the assets are not in the office. They are at different locations all across the country, actually. They could be in Bhagalpur, they could be in Jamui, Banka, Jaisalmer, anywhere. And from there on, how it is being transmitted, that's the employee. Now the building, which was the main, or the building, the factory, the premise, no longer the main asset. Now the assets are actually all distributed. It's moving, and several times in containment zones and communications from thereof, etc. The experience thereof is become vastly different. We spoke about family matters, domestic issues, other things that have also managed to rattle the ecosystem of the worker. And from there on, if you look at how technology of trying to engage, motivate, make sure the controls are in place, those controls are being followed, the machines are being patched up, the antivirus is up and running, the version control is taken care of, the new joinee imaging for the machines that need to go out to them and going through some courier company that is not delivering into the last mile. I mean, we've all seen all that. And therein comes in how the new COVID normal, we're now sitting in end August, and none of us really are seeing much of a change from population of 5% to 10 to 20 to even 30% in some of the functions such as IT, ES, into finance, going back into the company, etc. Minus those which require high bandwidth, which require an R&D lab, or places such as what Colonel Thaplyal is leading, where people will need to mandatorily come into to create and manufacture. And therein lie the next set of challenges, because now on a daily basis, you're looking at people coming from some part of the city, wherever the population is coming in from. And for one to continuously look and see if they are emerging in from a containment zone, if the delivery is going in there, the supply chain is coming in from there. So the technologies that require such modification of people, shifts, staggered timing, I think from a governance and control perspective, it's been a huge challenge. It also is a function of the industry.
It's also work in progress, so to say.
Yeah.
Because, as we go along, as this becomes the new abnormal, I don't call it the normal. And I hope we are able to deal with COVID soon. It goes away and we're able to find a vaccine in October. Hopefully things will be better. And it's a healthcare crisis, which has become an economic crisis because of this debate between lives and livelihood. But let me stick to the script and let me bring in Mr. Naveen Upadhyay again into the conversation. How has Kotak Mahindra Bank taken this balance? What is the balance you have struck? Give us a sense of that. For example, how have you safeguarded your main office? How have you safeguarded your branches? And again, the ATMs, there is a physical interface at ATMs. So give us a sense of how you've been able to strike this balance, Mr. Upadhyay.
Yeah. So what I think as a company, we have been adaptive to this change, to this circumstance. And there has been a lot of investment which has been done, especially on people, on technology. We are looking at it, be it infra upgrade or also having multiple awareness campaigns within the organization for employees with regards to this. Now, just to quote few of them, for example, we have worked out to have the safety gears like masks and gloves and sanitizers and temperature guns to all our branches at Pan India location and all our offices for all the employees. Then we have also worked on the mobility of employees, providing solutions so that they can plan as to when can they come to office and introducing a system of e-pass even when they are coming to office. So there is an automated system for that. Now, with this, we have also worked out, this is especially for a large office wherein we have more than 500 employees sitting at one location. So there, overall, keeping in mind the social distancing norm which is required, we have relooked at the overall utilization of space. And also we are working on the traffic management as and when the crowd starts coming back to office. How do we manage that crowd? What is the optimum level or optimum number of people we should be having in a facility? Do we operate at 10%, 20%, 30% is something which is being worked out. And as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of awareness campaigns, be it related to wellness, be it about COVID-19, be it about spending time, having that balance between personal and professional life. Also advising on the ergonomics part of it, that how do you sit, how do you walk, what kind of breaks you should take. So all of that awareness is being taken. Now, on the customer front, what is happening is there are a lot of, for example, video KYC, which has been introduced. Now, there are a lot of campaigns also for the customers wherein we are promoting and encouraging the customers to go through the online side of it rather than stepping into a branch. There are a lot of requests, a lot of services which can be made through the app, and it can be adhered to, it can be provided to. So with these things, what is happening is ultimately it is about taking care of your own people. And when you take care of your own people, they ultimately will take care of their customers. So what we're doing is there is a balance which has been worked out, that on one side, we are pushing and wanting our customers to do more of online transaction. At the same time, internally for our employees, we are working out various safety mechanisms, wellness mechanisms being provided for them. So this is how we are wanting and trying to strike that balance.
Thank you so much for giving us a realistic view of what you're doing and, so to say, walking the talk. Ms. Thapliyal, let me bring you in. How mature is the security technology in India, especially in the manufacturing sector? And how mature is the market in terms of availability and implementation of technology solutions in very manpower intensive businesses? You'll have to unmute yourself, Ms. Thapliyal.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So Anurag, a lot of questions are also coming on it. And, Arpit sir also mentioned that, yes, the manufacturing, the problem is that, the people need to come on ground to manufacture when they are onto it. And they're very big setups. So I'll take this question in two parts. First part is how mature is the security technology in India? This is the first thing I would like to, answer. And pardon me, but I think we are still in very, very nascent stages where CCTV surveillance is at times, or most of the times, I would say, confused with digitalization. So, however, the need of the hour is not only monitoring and surveillance, but an end-to-end solution for the people, process, technology, security. So this, you need an end-to-end solution for this. In big manufacturing setups, the major challenge is what I think, which differs from others, is that there are two reasons. One is the volumes are very, very high. And second is open weather conditions. So whenever you want to bring in or you want to copy paste a technology, these two factors actually gets into it. That you have to deal with a very high volumes, and second is open weather terrains. So I see broadly three kind of ignorances when we are buying a technology solution. First is the user itself is not confident to spell out the right scope of work, and more importantly, due diligence, that what all can be expected from the envisaged technology is at times remains missing. Second is the procurement teams, whether the procurement teams are aware that what kind of technology partners are best fit for our requirement. That is also somewhere I feel that there is a downturn in that. Then third is the technology providers itself. They are not very much aware of the requirements of big manufacturing setups where you have to deal with the mines and the things coming towards the smelters and the big power plants where the volumes are not 100 or 200 vehicles. Here we are handling almost 1300 to 1500 vehicles per day. The manpower is not 300 400, it is around 15,000 plus manpower you have to handle in a day. So technology providers also are not available with the right set of technology, so they don't know how to handle such big volumes. And at the same time, the right ROIs are required. We need to maximize our ROIs. We are not getting a technology to bring in a technology, but to maximize our ROIs. So I think with respect to long-term aspects, integration and scalability of the product is the major challenge. Then in a hurry to maximize the ROIs, we end up spending more. Security technology deployed with due diligence, I'm of the opinion, will help us to reduce the cost of not only security. Someone in fact asked me also, but it can help us optimizing all resources. In fact, many functions like logistics, safety, fire, medical, and others can be stitched together, and effectively the ROIs will get maximized when we start stitching together the solutions. Second part of your question, market availability, market maturity vis-a-vis security technology. Here I would like to give a prelude that no industry would be able to plan, predict and deploy the entire technology solution requirement for the entity in one go. This is actually not possible. So what happens is the users, they get into piece by piece. First they will do access control, then they will do some other visitor management, then they'll go into the transport management. So piece by piece it comes. It will be based on the criticality of the problem statement, oblique the use cases at that point of time for the entity when they are buying a technology. So invariably what will happen, that the user would be buying the technology in bits. So for actualizing the ROIs, you need integration and scalability. That yes, these pieces are there in silos, they are working. How can I integrate? And then I start, scaling it further depending upon my volumes, which is as of now, I see a gap over there. And so in my opinion, it's not that technology is not available. It is definitely available. But I think it's the research part in terms of what will work and what not is unavailable at all three things, like user also, at procurement teams also, and even at the technology developers also.
Thank you so much. You've kind of taken us through a landscape that is evolving. And you rightly said we are at a very nascent stage, and possibly there's a term in technology, leapfrogging. Hopefully we in India will leapfrog and adopt the best. And I wrote a piece a long time back called the late mover advantage. Maybe India will have that late mover advantage or the last mover advantage, because then you can select the latest, and however, how do you deal with legacy issues? Whatever technology infrastructure you have as legacy, how do you integrate that with the new processes, systems, and hence the new technology that you implement? So just to build on what Ms. Taplial said, Naveen, technology off the shelf versus customized technology solution. What and why? What's your viewpoint?
I think I'll take a cue from what Himani said. It basically starts with the user requirement. And most of the times what happens is user knows the end state, that what it wants. But how do we reach to that end state? What all needs to be done to reach there is something which goes missing. You need to really have a solid defined scope of work. You call it business requirement document. BRD is the first step that you need to define. And from there you move on to the step of discussing with the technology partners. Now, there is a significant gap between what a user wants and what a technology provider can give you. So for a user, technology, it appears like it's a automation. Once you have the technology, things will automatically move and it will give me the results which I want simply by implementing it. And when you ask the technology partner, he will say yes. When you give him a list of one, two, I want this, technology partner will certainly say yes. All these three things are possible, 1, 2, and 3. But ultimately, when you are getting technology, you need to have end-to-end understanding of the product as to what you're looking for, what do you want. And that is something which goes missing most of the times. So what I feel is off-the-shelf technology does not work out. What you need to really have is technological solutions wherein you work out things in pretty much detail. You define your BRD, you define your outputs, you define your integrations, which all tools do you want to integrate? Okay, so what happens is that there is a difference between having a technology in place and ultimately making it functional. So at times people simply take technology, put it in place, but whether it is functioning, whether it is live or not is something that needs to be worked out. So it is important that this technology needs to be looked upon as a solution rather than just a fit into your requirement. Now, also what happens is that maybe there is off-the-shelf technology, but requirement for technology changes from one organization to another. There are a lot of processes, there are things which are different between two organizations, and hence there are a lot of customization which comes into picture, which needs to be understood before you implement it. And hence, I believe it is important that you look at the end-to-end solution, technological solution, rather than just having off-the-shelf technologies.
Thank you so much. And, just to kind of, you shared your views, Mr. Plyal, on, where we are in terms of technology adoption and usage. And you heard Naveen clearly saying that customized solutions are better than off the shelf. Has technology adoption during the time of COVID increased for businesses like yours? And what is the business impact it has had? Because it may give a way to other people to follow your lead and maybe improve their businesses by listening to what you've done. Mr. Plyal?
Yeah. Anurag, I must say, in fact, what you mentioned, legacy, that are we ready to leave that legacy? So yes, I would say in terms of manufacturing, yes, of course, this pandemic has shown us that technology does not answer how we do our jobs, but also can define from where we do our jobs. And technology is even keeping a tap on whether we can keep our jobs in future or not. So better to build to adapt. So manufacturings have learned it very well, this lesson, that we have to adapt ourselves with the changing times. And the best part is, despite of economic downturn looming over the industry, the security and safety budgets are being treated differently now. So definitely we are using technology for making our workplaces safer. And one thing is observed and have been, accepted unanimously, that by mastering resources at its disposal and deploying the latest technology, we can mitigate the effects of COVID-19 to a significant extent. So here, when I talked about the volumes, what we are handling, a few of the technologies I foresee are coming into manufacturing very, very fast. First is touchless biometric access control systems. Then your virtual camera walk downs and drones in place of costly in-person patrols. And as it is, we don't want our guards to actually go into the close proximity. Remote monitoring of shop floor operations, because what we were earlier, monitoring through the physical things, now we are doing it through our control rooms. and thermal scanners for early detection, though it is highly debatable. Proximity sensors are again coming in for enforcing the social distancing norms, especially in the cool rooms, in the shop floor areas, where actually this was earlier, was common to sit together, to take rest during your half hours. Then health sensors and applications. So talking about changing, yes, many things have changed. Like even in manufacturing, people are looking for the options of work from home. What I initially mentioned before the start of this conversation, that work from home, yes, for few of the functions, we are also thinking. Manufacturing is also thinking on those lines. Staggered shift hours earlier, which was a big no-no. Now it is already slinked in. We are already customized with these staggered shift hours. And in most important, industry is understanding the need of changing fast with the technology, and we are also thinking on that how we can utilize it not to reduce the manpower but to optimize the manpower.
Okay, very good. Thank you. What I love about the conversation is that you're sharing real insights of what's happened and what you've done, and not just theoretical of what you want to do. I think at the end of the day, that's important. And for those of you who want to ask questions, I can see lots of questions coming. Ask it in the Q&A box, and we'll select some of those questions to be brought to the fore for the panel. At this point, let me bring Mr. Arpit Rajayan. You heard everyone, and you also commented at the start. Are we geared up to the highway towards automation, technology, in the way we should be? The last 5 months have told us that we need to accelerate faster. So are we really going fast on that highway, or we're crawling along? So what's your view? And both from a governance and a regulatory aspects, what are the things we should be mindful of? What should we keep in mind? Mr. Rajayan?
So, yeah, thank you. Taking a look at it purely from the speed at which this is coming at us and how we are tackling it, any number of companies that we work with, and those I've been in conversations with, not just India, all the way in Hong Kong and Dubai and other locations, I can tell you that the top management is really pushing for it. They want it, and they want to make sure that it is done the right way also. Because while this environment is undergoing some change, the earlier compliance and regulatory environment has not diluted. Just one or two pieces have diluted. And those responsibilities of the industry and the fiduciary, not just the fiduciary ones, but also the director's liability and the management's responsibility, or the officer in default in some cases, those still reside exactly where they are. The top management is still looking and wanting to see that their company is the employer of choice. They've done it the right way. Naveen was mentioning this. Narayan as well brought this in, and Himani, perfectly, in an environment where you get to see and experience how thousands of them will still come in on a daily basis, and those technologies that are required to enable work. So there is no other option. You got to adopt, and adopt it fast, understand it fast. Awareness campaigns, people's behavior, employee experiences, and management responsibilities all get together right here. This is the moment. And from here on, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of going back to where we were earlier. The wonderful offsites people have gone into. The business class travel, I think, is a thing of past, at least for a few months to go, if not more than that. The need for hospitality, 5-star stays, conferences in nice fancy places, convention halls and all. I think there's a lot of change that has already come through, and that change will bring about what I would and many others have called the new COVID normal. And in the new COVID BAU, how is it that we are going to be as productive, as efficient, cost conscious? Obviously, we've always been, and now with the new things, I think the CFOs are slightly smiling a little bit more, because a lot of the cost savings have come through, and companies are already in conversation and trying to see how real estate can be managed and going through. So a combination of factors in the environment are bringing together what the new COVID normal will look like.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rajayan. And you know, Mr. Kurup, he referred to you, Mr. Rajayan referred to you. But let me ask you, do you think the excessive use of technology can increase the cyber risk exposure, especially you're in the financial services, you're dealing with data, online transactions are growing. So do you think using technology can increase the exposure of risk and which may further overburden the costs of infrastructure and security?
It is already doing that, sir. So to just give you, again, I'll not be specific on the firm's data, but if I look at an industry-wide banking data, or if you were to speak to anybody who's sitting out of a CERT or a monitoring center for information security, he will tell you. So pre-COVID, if the bank that was the size of State Bank of India was having, let us say, 700,000 attempts a day from an information security perspective, today those threats have gone up double, or in cases triple, right? Plus the geopolitics and the various ways of working which people are now adopting, by which, you know, like we discussed earlier, that you're using your own PC, which is not set to the norms of a standard build. Your Windows version is outdated. You're still working through an iron key. Gives you an easy passage for infiltration into your systems, and there from that terminal into your core systems. So as an information because I do a dual role of information technology as well as of the physical security side. These threats keep us more awake nowadays than the physical security threats, right? Because in an office space which had 1,200 seats, we have hardly got 50 to 60 people coming in. But the threats on the cyber side have gone up tremendously. So to respond to your question, it is a very kind of a slippery slope that we are on.
It's a very sensitive area.
Yeah,
very sensitive area.
It's a very sensitive area, and if you look at the number of litigations, again through data, which have gone up, like Arpit brought out, not only on personal liabilities of directors, but also issues around customer confidentiality and breaches. If you're on Facebook, you can see that happening. If you're on WhatsApp, you can see that happening. If you can see the way social media is become so powerful now that, you know, rumor mongering, a whole bunch of things comes into the ambit of information security from a threat intelligence perspective, from predictive intelligence perspective. So when you look at it from that, when you look at it holistically, I would clearly say that the information security risks clearly outweigh the physical security risks in the current scenario. And for the specialists who work in this field, and if you speak to them, they are working overtime, if I may use the word, to keep, you know, processes and institutions, you know, working normally. Back to you.
Fantastic. I got distracted with all the questions that are coming in. We'll only be able to take a few of them. All your questions are good, and some of them have been answered in the comments that the panelists have made. But I'll take 2-3 questions. Final question to Mr. Arpit Rajayan. How are you advising your clients about managing privacy, especially when it comes to employees using data at their home? So what's your advice to your clients, Mr. Rajayan?
It's a tricky slope, and we've seen many such cases where the entry-level associates in particular are staying in, kind of PG accommodations where 3-4 of them are still staying back. This is apart from the population that has gone away from big cities. They vacated places and gone away from big cities for the next 3-4 months. But then there are those who continue to stay. That's fine. But as they are working, there could well be their roommate who's working for another competitor firm. There could be screenshots they are taking. Now, again, a lot of this is about the environment and the culture the firm wants to build. You trust the employees, but then you want to make sure that in that trust, there is a trust but verify. And you want to make sure that irrespective of the build and the machine, because there are companies that have said, BYOD, but have the sandbox and make sure it is connected back through. However, if it is not there, they're still using it. It's their own machine. You cannot take that responsibility away. So a bunch of governance requirements under privacy, under data protection, wanting to make sure the right thing is being done and there is no pilferage. Multiple aspects thereof, building from the company's culture as well as the experience of what the top management is saying and the tolerance to it. In most cases, I can't think of any where the company is saying, well, it's okay for us to bear a little bit. I think the top managements the tone from the top is very clear. We don't want any of this to happen. Yes, the disclosure requirements then become enhanced. The reporting requirements are enhanced, and the director is still responsible for breaches, which sometimes may mean client requirements, which should have been delivered in an ODC, but now because of this environment, the employee is sitting and working from home.
The only advantage I say, for the first time we're discussing these issues. First time, let's look at the silver linings. The silver linings is technology will eventually make our lives better. Technology will eventually make security processes more streamlined. Adoption of a balance between technology and manpower will help us. And for the first time, all of us are saying, never say never. Who knows what is. I mean, if I said to you that people would work from home for the next 6 months, you'd ask me what I'm smoking. I don't smoke of anything. Even when I'm upset, I'm not smoking. I'm very gentle. But coming back, this is the time to take questions, and we'll take a couple of questions that have been coming on the chat, and I'll address to a specific panelist. And if we have a time for add-on follow-up, we'll do that. So let me take the first question and let me address it. One of the, I do 4 or 5 webinars a day. One of the things I look at is the number of questions. If you just look at the number of questions, we've got about 18 questions and we've answered 14 in some way, either one-on-one or from what, and there are about 4 questions that are open. So it gives you a sense that it's been a participative seminar. You've tickled people's thought processes and they're asking you questions. So first question to Narayan, is there a standard mechanism to identify the technologies for different businesses so that there is a logical balance between manpower and technology solution? Is there a playbook for this balance?
So my answer would be no, because like I have always advocated the fact that every industry and every business has different risk types. So a man working from home, the complete risk picture changes. Or a person working from office, the complete risk picture changes. A man commuting in a train all the way from Borivali to Churchgate and getting off that train and not traveling for the next 5 months in that train, the whole risk picture changes. So is there a one fit solution for all? I don't think so, sir. And I think Naveen brought it up that while there are technology solutions which are tailor-made, which are available in the market, you'll always need to do that tweaking based on your threats that you have specifically, not only for the industry that you work in, but also for the business that you work in, that you will have to bring into these solutions and tweak it in such a fashion that it fits you. So my answer is that there is no one fit solution for everybody. While everybody is now trying to go into cloud computing, and while those themes will remain common, but there is no one fit solution because your threats are different. My largest threat is that on the information security side is that my system should be secure at all time and none of my data gets leaked out. But as an information security professional, I also try and rob the bank every day. That's my job. So my risks are completely different. And if I was to ask somebody in production like a Himani, her risks would be completely different. Would there be public unrest because people are scared of losing their jobs? Would there be, would the workers stop people from entering the premises because they are agitated? Would be some of the risks that she's looking at. She would be more interested in social distancing than me because I have more than 90% of my people working from home. And therefore, my solutions will differ. So my answer is that there is no one fit all for all. There's no one solution for all. Back to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Narayan. Anuj, let me ask you, do you see a convergence? You're also the youngest. You're possibly the most comfortable with technology. But do you see a convergence of technology, facility management, and security delivering new meaningful processes and guidelines to support fighting this crisis that we have? So how will this integration happen?
Well, it's a fairly loaded question, so I'll try to address it piece by piece. Well, technology will play a key role in connecting security and facility management, as both are equally important or essential to ensure that a workplace is safe and secure. A security guard standing at the front of the gate or the reception is there to verify that you're not bringing COVID or any other dangerous element inside. And it's the safety or environment inside through facility management, which is what's needed to ensure that you have a healthy workplace. I think one key point, which probably we've not addressed yet, but will play a key role, is technology that would come in to train us on what to do or what not to do. SOPs are there in books and files, and all of us would have different ones readily available. But the enforcement of that SOP is probably the key that needs to be put into the log. As long as you're not trained on what to do or what protocol to follow, you wouldn't be able to do much, or you'll get probably lost in what you're doing. And when I talk about training, I don't think any of us would be able to go through regular training these days done by a professional or a trainer. It's all going to be driven through technology. We are all humans. One thing that I've learned of late is how human behavior functions. We have a habit of gathering together socially, even at a workplace or at home. We have a habit of not washing our hands for 30 seconds or touching our face. Which is probably what you're not supposed to do during the time of COVID. And these are the elements where I think technology is trying to enforce you or constantly educate you or train you to what not to do or what to do. I think that's probably going to be the convergence point to bring security of you as a person at a workplace or at a mall or at a residence and facility management together to ensure you work in the right direction.
Thank you, Anuj. We are social beings. We like human connection. And I can only tell you that, the more the technology grows and its adoption grows, the value of human touch becomes even more valuable. And, you will bear I answer all mails. I always say deal with busy people. They're busy because they make things happen and they make time for people. People ask me, you answer every mail, you do 4 shows. I said, there is a bot called Botra. Batra and bot, Botra that does that. But jokes apart, technology will grow and it's been fascinating to talk to you. It's not in the script. I'll be myself and I'll ask you for one prediction for the future. Let me start with you, Anuj. Your one prediction for the future that hasn't been, you talked about movies that I've watched. Give us a theme for the next movie that George Lucas should make, or Steven Spielberg, or whoever wants to make, James Cameron for that matter. Give us a theme.
Well, I've actually been seeing a lot of movies, at least on Netflix at home. I think the next theme would obviously be a post-COVID era where we'll be yearning to bring people back together to actually be more social than the way we have going to be attuned to the current.
Absolutely. The value of being together and social connect will even go up more. It will not, because at the end of the day, what do we live for? That's what we live for. Mr. Plial, your final comment, one prediction for the future. Do you think I'll be able to grow ahead?
I think definitely keep the hope.
They say hope is not a plan, but that's okay.
Yeah, so it's not the prediction, but I would say, what I would want, one wish, maybe if the guards who are placed at some dangerous locations due to the kind of duties what they are supposed to be delivering for all of us to keep us secure, if we can have certain, some sort of a robotic safety arrangements for them, that if in case they are under some threat or something, immediately they can get covered or something of that sort. So that one wish, in fact, not prediction, but one wish I do have for all my guards.
Thank you so much. Naveen, your one prediction for the future.
I think I would look forward to the status quo, the way there is a balance between manpower and technology as on date. That should continue. Technology should not overwhelm our life the way it is, and it should not take over the human touch, the human part of it. So I simply look forward for a status quo.
Thank you so much. Narayan?
So my prediction is that this is not going away next year as well, right? So because of the scale at which we are operating.
Please don't scare us.
No, I'm not scaring you. You asked me for a prediction.
I asked for an astrologer yesterday night. It was my birthday yesterday and my daughter's birthday. And he said, in October, it'll go away. You guys can have a party post-October.
So if you look at this,
it can't happen.
If you look at the streets of Mumbai, it doesn't seem that there's COVID, right?
You look at streets of Delhi, it looks like it's back to normal.
Exactly.
Traffic like normal. I mean, the cases are rising, that's alarming. But traffic and life seems like it's normal.
Correct. But from a corporate and from a business perspective, because of the regulations that we run, we will not be getting out of this scenario because of various factors, at least till the third quarter of next year is what I'm picking up.
Thank you for that cautiously optimistic approach.
Yeah.
You need to be cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. So, but has it stopped us from achieving our targets? I don't think so. We've adapted and we've moved on. And I think that is where the key is. And I think this whole conversation around technology versus manpower is just one factor that we are looking at in this overall large pandemic.
Absolutely, you're right.
The resilience of the human spirit is much bigger than this pandemic. And if it happened in 1917 and it stayed there for 3 years, it'll happen in 2020 and stay there for 2 years and go on. But we will emerge on the other side. And that's my prediction for the future, sir.
Thank you so much. Finally, your view, Mr. Arpit Rajayan. You have the last laugh.
First up, I'll concur with Narayan. We all think this is not going away in a hurry. Second part, and this is my hope, I do hope that the hospitality and the aviation sectors pick up. Very key for the world economy. And it's not just people, fancy planes, the A380 now going out, or 777-400 or something, or the Leelas and Oberois. And it's not about the life that comes from there, but actually the employment they generate. There are people's lives at stake.
Absolutely.
There are manufacturing that have gone out. So I hope that there are sectors which employ very large populations. They're able to come back and they're able to recover from this. And whether it is by using a combination of technology or decision making that flows from the user bases, the customers, the client, and how that ultimately comes back to make sure that the hope that this is the new COVID normal is not drastically different economically than what it earlier was.
Okay, thank you. But one thing I can say, Mr. Rajayan, that risk management will take a whole new meaning post-COVID and it will become even more important. Thank you for being great panelists. Thank you for making specific comments and sticking to a structure. And we did cover the spectrum of what we needed to cover. So thank you so much. Thank you to our audience. Keep reading BW Security World. We'll bring it out in print form also. I believe print is not going anywhere. So keep reading businessworld.in. We're hitting 40 million traffic. Thank you so much. Congratulations to Tenon Group for putting together the second edition of this Tenon Talks. I thoroughly enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed and you took away some points that will help you discharge your professional duties well and will make you more confident about the role of technology, striking a balance with the human beings. Thank you so much. God bless you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you to the panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.